I love He-Man while growing up. I had the toys, except for the Castle of Grayskull, unfortunately. But He-Man is an amazing cartoon and line of toys that populated this earth. And more than 40 years later, Amazon Prime took on the responsibility to bring it back and raise the bar from its live-action predecessor made by Canon Films in 1987. The bar has never been so low, and despite the mixed critics, I for one will not recommend it. He-Man is not He-Man, but a deconstructed punching ball for almost 2 hours and a half. A movie I cannot take seriously because every second there is a joke to highlight the absurdity of what I was watching in the theater. And after all these years, my dear Dolph Lundgren, Frank Langella, and Canon Films, perhaps I have treated you too harshly. I don't know what was the intention of the writers and producers of this movie, but there are many things from the script that tell me they have absolutely disdain for He-Man. They keep throwing jokes every minute to remind us that everything that is happening is absurd, and by doing it, they purposely show us that this movie and these characters are not to be taken seriously in any way. That is why I can only assume that this is He-Man the parody, like Police Squad, but not that good. I'm not saying that we can have jokes to lighten up the mood in certain moments, but if every situation deserves a joke, then nothing is to be taken seriously. And there is one sequence that paints the portrait perfectly for me. At the end of the third act, He-Man is showing master control of his power, going toe-to-toe against Skeletor and winning. He once big foe who destroyed his life and the lives of countless other Eternians is about to feel the full weight of his mighty justice. But it just so happens that Skeletor holds He-Man's father as a bargain. He might be physically overpowered, but he still holds a psychological high ground against an immature man who is about to receive a lesson that will scar him for life. As Skeletor taunts him, He-Man unleashes an attack against him that results only in the untimely death of his father. He-Man picks up the rocks and holds him one last time as his father tells him how proud he is of his son. He-Man is taken captive with the other members of the Resistance, and as dark as that cell feels, a beacon of hope shines between the crowd that receives the fallen hero. His mother makes haste to embrace his son and cry together about the death of the king, her husband, his father. But I can't feel shit because now we need to go back to fisting and ramming jokes right in the middle of this scene. How am I supposed to take anything of this seriously when even this traumatic and terrible event is met with anal sex jokes back and forth? Since the very beginning of the film, almost every situation is undercut by a joke.
Whoa.
It is quite heavy, so if you could just...
Oh my god, yeah.
For a comedy to work, it needs to have jokes that are unexpected, otherwise it's lousy. It's like when Bart had his 15 minutes of fame. The first couple of times he said,
I didn't do it.
everyone was losing their minds. But after a while, it becomes boring because it's repetitive. The same principle operates in a movie. I cannot emotionally invest myself with whatever is happening on the screen if I already know the gimmick that the joke is coming. Call me crazy, but I prefer to know when it's not coming.
That's what she said.
Thus, I can only assume the writers of this movie think that they are so much cooler and smarter than any of us to treat us with abject disrespect about a cartoon and line of toys that, for me and many other million children throughout the 80s and 90s, brought us joy and a sense of wonder. And not only because nothing is to be taken seriously with a joke every second, but because the writer's twisted sense of humor is to populate this children's tale with anal sex jokes and drugs? The first 10 minutes of your movie will set the tone as it establishes the basis of everything which will happen. Like in the beginning of Back to the Future, we see the town of Hill Valley and the characters who reminisce about the beautiful time that were the 50s. But because Marty travels to that time, we are then confronted with a different reality, one that shows that the 50s weren't so ideal. Now let's compare it to He-Man 2026, which starts with Adam telling the story of Eternia, of how islands float in the sky and this world that is so populated by magic. And then he says, I swear I'm not high. Excuse me, why do we need the concept of drugs in He-Man? You know, dude, I was so high, I think I saw this chick turn into an owl, dude. Go fuck yourself. And if I'm not mistaken, they do it only once. But they do it at the very beginning, which to me sets the tone, bringing all these ideas that appear with drugs to He-Man, like drug trafficking, slavery, and cartels, but also rock and roll, and sheer debauchery, and sex, and, wait a second. Anyways, forget about it. That's totally fine. But one thing that is repeated over and over and over again are those anal sex jokes. Continuous jokes about rim job, or let's make fun about this character because it's called Ram Man, or the most celebrated by the characters of this parody, Fisto, because of fisting. Okay, my first question to the writers is, what the hell? Do you have an obsession or compulsion of any kind? He-Man is a story created for children age 5, and I know this because the creators said it. What is the idea to wipe your ass with some beautiful memories of cartoons by making this terrible joke? I don't know, man. Maybe the writer's childhood wasn't that happy. Maybe their parents didn't hug them enough, or maybe too much. Maybe they never experienced the joy of just watching something on TV that catered their sense of wonder as children. And I'm not saying these are bad jokes per se. It's just that the concept of anal and drugs, I don't think they should be associated with a story for children. Call me crazy. I don't want to make this video a rant fest about the writers, but man, they had one job. Just make a fun story about a hero that is well known, beloved, and who has more than 40 years of lore and fandom to work with. But instead, they decided to wipe their asses with all of it. And the most disrespect was to deconstruct and continuously make fun of He-Man. At the end of the movie, Adam tells everyone the name he had chosen for himself. And Tila is like, seriously? That's so dumb. But it's not dumb. Otherwise, it would not have passed the test of time. These are the same people who say that the green in Lantern or Arrow is dumb. Therefore, it must be taken out. I have a question for all these writers. Aren't you passionate about anything? Don't you have something that shakes your inner self up to your core and makes you say, man, that is awesome? I really would love for the answer to this question to be yes, there is. Because then they will understand how it feels. I'm so done with this nihilism, not only in Hollywood, but so predominantly in our time. Like, nothing makes sense, nothing is worth it, so why bother? And to illustrate this, I think that the end of the movie is a perfect example of this. There is a new attack somewhere in Eternia, and Adam runs away from his friends with Cringer to transform. As he fades away through the horizon, his friends look at him puzzled, and one says, "Is he really going to pretend that we do not know what he's doing?" And Tila or someone says something to the effect of, "Just let him have this." Sheer condescension to the mighty hero who brought peace and reestablished order back into Eternia after more than a decade. Well, I have something to tell to all these too cool to be writing He-Man writers. You have completely missed the whole point. Adam never intended for his real identity to be concealed for narcissistic reasons. No, it was to protect those he loved from being targeted by Skeletor. You know, the guy who has been whipping their asses all these years until Adam returned to Eternia. They're making fun of him and his sacrifice, and also goes against one of the main themes of this movie, the lesson that Black Man-at-Arms gives to He-Man, that a man and a hero protects his family and those he cares about. In the end of the movie, when you need to back up everything that you have been building up for 2 hours and almost 30 minutes, the writers decided to flush it all out. I'm so done, seriously. Hug your children, treat them nicely, and take them away from social media. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting this crap. Now, will I say that it's all crap and nothing of value is there to be taken from this movie? No, of course not. It was made with a certain level of competency. It's just that in doing it so, they crapped all over He-Man and made him a punching ball for jokes. There were moments that were really funny, like when Dolph Lundgren makes his cameo in some way, passing the baton to the next He-Man. And there are two things I have to say about this. First of all, this man's English pronunciation has one of the best redeeming arcs I have ever seen in a Hollywood movie in years. Go back and watch He-Man 1987 by Canon Films, and you can barely understand him. That is why he had to dubbed all of his lines under extreme pressure. They gave him 3 chances per line to be acceptable, otherwise they will hire a voice actor. And the man did the best he could. And the other thing was when he bid farewell to Adam with the iconic "Good journey." It was fucking hilarious. You see, this works because it references the absurdity of the production and final cut of He-Man 1987, which was an absolute disaster. Canon Films almost went bankrupt during the making of this film because they were flooding money to another movie which was being filmed at the same time, and it was a great bet to save their production company. And the name of that movie was it's Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. Oh my god. So it will make a lot of sense for a comedic point for Lundgren to finish his cameo with "Good Journey, Kid." It works because his movie was ridiculous, but He-Man sacrificing himself to save Eternia? That's serious business. I feel like we are somewhat in either a cease of fire or apathy and somewhat post-far woke era. And what I mean by that is that it's not so heavy handed, but the main pillars are still standing. I wonder if the writers got this memo. Women can be perfect, but the hero has to still be the dude, and she has to be hot. Well, a polished turret remains a turret after a bottle of Sonex. And men can have redeemable arcs like Black Man at Arms. Yes, that guy who at the beginning of the movie goes killing every foe without breaking sweat. And for the ideological race swapping Hollywood has been putting in, at least in this movie, they had a great actor like Idris Elba. So it didn't bother me as much. But once I started seeing the obvious gimmick of showing side characters, such as Ram Man or Triclops being race swapped, it made me wonder outside of the story. And that's a problem for me because it takes me out of the movie, which I pay to watch. But all in all, I would say Woke, it's pretty much up and running and just tone it down a bit. There is redemption. Yeah, I mean, I hope that I don't come out as a douche for all the criticism.
That's because you are my friend.
Thanks, man. But I will say this. I did enjoy seeing the actors committed to the role they had and actually giving a damn. The main actor, Nicolas Galitzina, sorry bro, showed that he can take on an action role and be funny. And I hope to see more of this guy in the future. And that goes for the rest of the cast like Camila Mendes, who portrayed Tila. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more of her if you catch my drift.
I always catch your drift.
My conclusion with Master of the Universe 2026 is that they took a beloved character, an IP, and did almost what Hollywood has been doing for the last decade or more. Deconstruct him and spray an abundance of nihilism all over. And I am glad that there are people who enjoyed it, because that's just how it's supposed to be. And this time, it was not for me. But man, I really wanted it to be. And that's all I have to say about that. Good journey, man.